So welcome everyone. Welcome to the Zoom to Miracles group with Kate and Shannon. We co-host a weekly satsang meditation, and this week it's a workshop. So for anyone new today on the group, it'll be workshop type. We'll have some meditations. And some work to do where you're writing. You can do it in your mind if you like, these little exercises, but you're also welcome to write them down. So we'll give you a few minutes to get pen and paper. It's probably more helpful for you to have something to write down, and if you want to, you can have your course book. So for anyone watching back on YouTube, be ideal to get pen and paper to do this workshop. So the topic of this week's workshop we'll be looking at attack thoughts. Okay. Now, Shannon and I have run a day's workshop maybe about a year and a half ago, where we took a group through the three aspects, three things that Jesus says we need to be mindful of, and I'll go through those in a minute. But today we're only picking out one. And in the workshop that we did an hour and a half on each one of these three items throughout a day. So if you were in that workshop, you will be familiar with what we're going through today. But it's also good to revise, right? So the guidance around these workshops has been to help everyone in the group to be more aware of ego ideas, ego judgments, particular things in our mind. And so each week we'll have a focus on that particular thing. And we'll ask you to, we'll ask you to focus on that for the week, but also we presume that you have read the text, gone through the workbook, and have read the manual for teachers. Because this work is going to be, reading through some sections of different workbook lessons. So it's probably not exactly suited to somebody that's new to A Course in Miracles. You should, if you're a person that's new to A Course in Miracles, you should be going through the workbook with your inner guide and doing all the lessons. And then at the end of the course, the end of the lessons, he says that he puts us in the hands of our inner guide. And so if you're here in these workshops now, or you're listening to this back on YouTube, and you feel that this is right for you, this is part of that extra work to, for the inner guide to show us. So we're familiar with the terms attack thoughts, we're familiar with the words that we'll be using here in the workshop. So we're not coming from a beginner, in terms of somebody saying, what is an attack thought? we presume that you already understand the idea that Jesus is already presented in the course. So, so there'll be a series of workshops. We'll also do our Christ blessing session at the end of each month. Did you want to add anything here, Shannon, about what we're going to do today?
No, but I just wanted to say welcome, everyone, and it's great to be here with all of you.
Thank you. It's lovely. So he guides us in every moment about what to do. So Shannon and I have had, guidance around these workshops. And what generally happens if you are interested in how we get our guidance is that he generally brings in an idea. It just comes forward in your mind, right? An idea of what to do the group on. And then little bits more come forward. This is how Shannon and I both get our guidance. And then he'll guide me to join with Shannon, and she will have some guidance around it. And then it's kind of the general idea and the general, it's like bullet points are given to us, and it guides us how to run through the workshop and different things and the emphasis. And then when we turn up here to speak, he guides us into the detail of it. So that's how it works. You don't always get the full detail of it. You're just trusting with point forms and then a guidance. So the Holy Spirit speaks through us when we're clear, when we allow him to speak through us. And all we need to do is just open up and say, use me for your holy purposes. And we don't need to be fully awakened to do that. The Spirit can speak through you to, he can, we're meant to really, part of the course is meant to open up to this inner guide. And the inner guide is mainly around correcting our perception. So it's all about getting the correction of our perception, and that's what we'll be focusing on in these workshops a lot. But then he will guide you at times what to say and what to do. But he's always guided me that the most important thing about all of this is the correction of our own perception, the inner trust to bring everything to him. So me and Shannon presenting these groups, when I was doing my inner training, my inner work with the Holy Spirit and Jesus, I didn't do groups. I wasn't hosting groups. I was fully every day, fully with him. I did start to go to groups during that period and listening, as everyone here is listening, and developing that inner trust and getting some help from the teachers. And I was listening to teachers. So there's nothing wrong with holding groups. And it is a way to let the Spirit speak through you. But when the Spirit speaking through me came at a much later stage, because I was pretty much caught up in the ego mind, right? So it probably didn't get much chance to speak through me. So let's start off with a little meditation, which I've been guided to hold, and it's just, say, 3 minutes. And what he's asking us to do is to start off by holding in your mind for 3 minutes the holiness of everyone in this group. Right, now you can do this in two ways. You can look around the group and just focus on each person and practice looking past all the thoughts that are in your mind about that person's body or their background or the images, whatever, and just see holiness. Or you can just sit quietly and just hold the holiness of everyone in your mind. So I'm just going to press start now and simply focus on the holiness of everyone here. Thank you. Okay, that's 3 minutes. Now, in regard to last week's workshop, where you were asked to consider 10 different aspects of the ego and decide which one you, as in guided to which one. And it didn't really matter which one. So obviously, I wrote in the Zoom to Miracles Facebook post that you wouldn't be asked to share about it because it is your inner work with your inner guide. And the ego is very quick to compare, right? But what he was guiding me this morning, and the same as Shannon, she had the same guidance, was that there may be some that feel the guidance to share something that came through last week, something that was helpful. But he was saying that if anyone does share, it's meant to lift the group up. It's meant to be helpful. And he was saying to me this morning that even if you forgot to do the practice last week, it doesn't matter, because through those series of workshops, you would develop more willingness over time, and not to judge yourself for how you went this week. Okay. Because the ego is very harsh, and it does tend to judge. The ego is the judgment, and it's also the judgment on you joining the judgment. So, and we can end up seeing that. We can end up seeing that how the ego is the double punch. It brings in the judgment, and then it says you're bad for judging. It always presumes there's a you there to be bad for judging, but literally it's just all your thoughts. It's just all thoughts, right? That's the only thing we have to release or replace is thoughts. So I have received, and both Shannon and I have received guidance that if anyone would like to share about anything that came through last week, or just an overview of the helpfulness of the workshop from last week, please feel free to put your hand up and share. Okay, Maurice.
Yeah, I found it very, very, very powerful to have this shared experience with everybody. I find it incredible, actually, and I feel incredibly blessed to have this opportunity to not do all this on my own, not to be alone in this, because I just feel I don't need to be alone sorting this stuff out, and to have this multiplicity of selves with me in this journey is extraordinary. And my thing was looking at my irritation. And I remember Kate saying, maybe you may be done with that, you can move on to another one. And I thought, oh, that'll be impossible. But actually, after a few days, I actually found my irritation. I was actually able to catch it, and it did seem to abate. And then I moved to judgment after that. So I just feel it really worked, and it was really wonderful. And thank you for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for your share. And just remember, when we listen to other members sharing, this is meant to encourage and support you to do this inner work. And you haven't lost anything if you didn't do it properly, seemingly properly. Don't let the ego come in and judge. Okay, Jesus has guided us that this is people that are speaking here. Is whoever's guided to speak, and whatever they're meant to say is for you. Okay, you haven't missed out. We'll be doing more workshops, and the workshops are recorded on YouTube. All right, so Sean, would you like to share? Are you able to unmute? Because I didn't actually go in and just let me allow participants to unmute. Okay, see if you can unmute now. There we go.
Okay. Hello. Thank you for letting me share. I have to kind of chuckle a bit because after the stat song last week, I felt almost like I had been scolded. And I kept thinking about that. I'm like, why am I feeling that way? And then I took it to the spirit, and I was like, why am I feeling this way? And then I laughed, and I was like, almost like surprised and delighted, because I felt like, and I journaled all about it this week. Every day I try to journal some about it and get clear. And I've been working on letting go of judgment. And I've been reading, a book by Ken Wapnick on judgment, and listening to Gabrielle Bernstein on her book about undoing judgment. And So I followed the guidance, and I would ask Holy Spirit for a lesson. The lessons that came through were like spot on. And like one day, I was like, I think it was lesson 199, I think, and it says like about fear. It just, the little phrase that stood out that says, "It is not so," about fear. And I was like, oh, that stayed with me throughout the week. And it was such a beautiful experience in my mind as I realized, wow, like I wasn't being scolded. I was being redirected. And I was being redirected through the voice of Kate was the messenger, but the teacher is Jesus or the Holy Spirit. And it's like he knew exactly what I needed. He knew I needed to reel in. As working as a caregiver right now, it's challenging. So I turned off the TV, I turned off the news, I stopped watching the politics, I didn't drink, I stopped eating chocolate as much. I went for beautiful walks, I sat in stillness more often, I asked for guidance more often. I just got more in tune, and I can definitely feel the shift within myself of the knowingness of my true self, and the peace that is there. And my meditation this morning was very deep, and it's just knowing that I am safe home in God, and I love that. Yes, I'm in California, Kate's in Australia, Shannon is wherever in Pennsylvania, like 3 different parts of the world, but you guys, like the mind is joined. And through that, I was given this beautiful message, and it was like, it spoke right to me. And it's what I needed, an assignment to get myself more focused and more tuned in. So it became this beautiful experience throughout the week. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Sean. That was lovely. Thank you for that beautiful share. Nikki, would you like to share? Able to unmute? Okay. There you go.
I got it now.
Now, Nikki, just letting you know that this is being recorded. Would you like me to pause the recording?
No, thank you, Kate. I found the workshop last week really, really good. The focus on gossiping, judgment, preaching, stubbornness, holding on to the idea I'm right, showing off, seeking approval, withdrawing, seeking food and drink and books and TV and cuppers and biscuits and food. It was fabulous to focus on it, a really great workshop. And I discovered the extent of the judging, name-calling, gossiping, showing off, seeking approval, and the eating and the drinking and the TV. It was, it's terrific. Yeah, thank you very much. That's all I've got to say.
Thanks, Nikki. That's it, right? That's it. It was funny that you went into all 10 of those. But they all are. That's for sure. We're all doing all of those. So it's really nice that you had that radical self-honesty to look at all those places. And they're really all the same thing, but sometimes we need them really spelt out in layman's terms, and that's what he was guiding Shannon and I to do, to really bring it in that way. So, of course, we have the metaphysics of the course, and they're the answer to all those little 10 aspects. But we have to come in and see those things in our mind and know that they're what needs to be let go of, and he changes it. So our relationship is with joining with the Holy Spirit or Jesus, so he can give us the miracle by showing us where we're doing it and showing us that it doesn't bring peace. It doesn't bring us peace. The ego is very certain that if we judge someone, we'll feel better. And we don't, because all judgment is on ourselves, and we don't. We feel terrible, and then we've got to go and get a bicky and go and get a bit of chocolate to make us feel better. And then that doesn't make us feel better. And then we're like, oh, I'll just stay in bed all day, and that doesn't make us feel better. So you see, we're going down that rabbit hole. Andrew, would you like to share?
Yes, that was a awesome session last week and had a powerful effect. And I've been practicing seeking for the past week. And the one thing I wanted to say was, one thing I noticed was when I was seeking, it just took me away from the present moment. And I just noticed that it was a way I was seeking because because I couldn't, there was something in my emotional, my feelings that wanted a way to relieve itself. And I'm not sure if it's something that can be hard to sort of feel, because I haven't allowed myself to feel it as much in the past, or I've had such a strong habit to think about food or coffee or something. And yeah, I was just catching myself whenever I went to think, whenever I began to think about food, then I would bring myself back to I'd be like, oh, that's the seeking, that's the thing that I'm working on this week. And I'll just bring myself back to the present moment and do that many, many times. And yeah, so it's just very, very clear how the ego was working, which was, it's good to see. Thanks.
Thanks, Andy. That's a really wonderful share. So thank you. How precise, because that's what the idea was to get into one thing and be very vigilant for it. And then what happens is, as you're vigilant for just one thing, and it doesn't really matter what it is, it then gets you into the habit of being more mindful for that ego judgment or fear or guilt or whatever it is, and then being aware of it and doing forgiveness on it. Maria, would you like to share? Did you get your muting or unmuting working? Good. Good to hear.
We shall see. Well, what I have to say is that it was a perfect session, beginning by not being able to be heard at all because my sound was not working. And I tend to like, oh, I am going to do this perfect, everything I'm going to do perfect, and I am going to do, and it was like, no, I gave the day to the Holy Spirit. I was guided to read Responsibility for Sight every day. And it was like getting deep into that section. I was like, oh, I chose not being able to be heard. Like, that was my decision. There is nothing that happens that I am not responsible for. And I was working on being irritated with my daughter. And it was like every single time that I saw something, I was like, boom, I am responsible for sight. I am responsible. There's nothing going on. So it turned into, and when I was not doing perfectly, that the ego was like, oh, I was like, I'm not going there. There is nothing happening. I can choose the Holy Spirit. So yeah, it was like, it was great. So thank you.
Thank you, Maria. That's wonderful. So some really nice sharings there. So we're not going to be going into breakout rooms to any weeks to share about what we've done in the previous week. So it's lovely for people to share, but be aware that this is your journey. You don't have to share. This is the inner work. If you feel the people that have shared today have felt guided to share whatever they've felt guided to, and it's for everyone. It's for everybody to hear these messages, right? But if you're feeling, I don't feel to share, that's perfect for you. So just so you really understand how this works. And this is your inner work. There's nothing to prove to anyone. There's no teacher checking off and giving you a mark, right? This is all these workshops are, and even like the whole course is about. It's for you. Now, the reason why we become more mindful is our desire for the peace of God. That is our goal, peace. If we don't have that really strong desire for peace, like we did in the meditation last week, we won't do this work. We have to see how disturbed our mind is, how uncomfortable we feel all the time, how it feels to feel annoyed and angry and irritated and discontented. And we have to see that there is a way to have a deep contentment. And this is the way. And it's not always easy, but it's doable. And it takes practice. But what else are you going to do with your time? You can either just allow the ego to run the show, and you can always feel discontented and irritated and frustrated and annoyed and angry in all the different various ways. Or you can say, I'm going to make good use of time. So time was made by the ego. So let's once again, just for a few minutes now, feel that willingness to practice for this week. So what we're going to go through today, you just need to close your eyes for a few seconds. It doesn't even take a few minutes, just a few seconds, just to say, you know, if I want the peace of God, I have to become more aware of my ego, to release it, to let them go, to have the miracle. And I'm going to dedicate this week to what's coming up in this workshop to do. So the guidance is that this willingness that we're really focusing in on in these workshops is really the answer. And then what we do is what comes forward. But we really need to have this deeper willingness, because this is the key detect everything, to catch these thoughts, to catch ourselves. Now, nobody ever does it perfectly. You're not going to catch everything, right? So it's very important to not let that ego come in and judge you. And your journal is for you to refer back to. And as each week, as you do these particular aspects that we're bringing forward each week, you can always go back to them at some time in the future and practice them again and focus on this particular thing again. So today's workshop is going to be about focusing on attack thoughts. And we're going to be going through workbook lesson 26. Now, this is going to be our focus for the next week, is to become really, really mindful of these kind of thoughts in our mind that Jesus calls attack thoughts. It is surely obvious. So my attack thoughts are attacking my invulnerability. So who I truly am as spirit is invulnerable. And any thoughts that I have in my mind that say I can attack, or I am attacked, or I will be attacked, they attack. They what they do is, he says that they attack our invulnerability, and I've shared this before, but what those thoughts do when we hold them in our mind as true and we don't do forgiveness on them is they take away, they veil the true self, the clear mind of the mind of God that's beautiful and clear and holy and infinite and eternal, omnipresent. We all have that mind in our mind now. That pure mind of God is not when you die. It's here right now. Everybody here in this group and that's listening to this recording, you have that mind right now. And what stops you from realizing it are these attack thoughts and guilt thoughts and judgment thoughts and planning for the future. So before I go into this, I'm just going to maybe get Shannon to read this one paragraph. Now it's from workbook 136. Sickness is a defense against the truth. And in this paragraph 19, there's a line in this that Jesus showed me many years ago. And I'll get Shannon to read through it and highlight the 3 areas that he says bring in bodily identification. And attack thoughts are one of them. And that's what we're doing our session on today. So Shannon, would you like to share and talk about that? Thanks.
Sure. Thanks, Kate. Yeah, as you were talking, I was just really, I don't know, just I'm feeling to share that it's really important to remember that we're like really just discerning what is true and what is not true. And so there's only 2, there's the Christ and then there's the ego. So there's only 2 things. So like, it's only we're thinking with the ego or we're thinking with God. We're thinking Christ thoughts. So like, we only have 2 options and one's true and one's not. And so it's like, when we can break it down into that simplicity, it kind of helps us as we're looking, like, because like the thing is, like, it's a temptation to believe something that's not true. It's only a temptation. So as temptations come in, we can say, oh, that's right. Like, this can't be true because it's not a thought of God. And if we can hold that in our mind, like, it helps us to be more vigilant against the ego and allow the awareness of God's love to come into our mind, of God's thoughts, and let ourselves be guided there. And so as Kate and I were talking, we were looking at this paragraph 19. It's what we based our whole workshop on. It was a whole weekend, actually, that we spent on one sentence. And I know some of you were there. And so it says, yet this protection needs to be preserved by careful watching. And so he's saying, like, we've got to protect this shift. We've got to be vigilant against certain things and carefully watch them. If you let your mind harbor attack thoughts, yield to judgment, or make plans against uncertainties to come, you have again misplaced yourself and made a bodily identity which will attack the body, for the mind is sick. And so if we do either any of these things, and as we start, and you probably noticed this week, like you're probably already thinking like, oh yeah, I did that. As you're like watching your mind more, you're watching what the ego is doing. Like that is, we're identifying with the body when we're doing that. We're identifying with the ego, and the ego is the identification with the body and separateness. And so those three things are what we were going to try to do all in one night, but we're going to start with attack thoughts for today. And then I think after the Christ blessing next week, Kate, we're going to do another one. So we're going to spread this out so that you can really understand, and we can kind of get into a deepening of understanding of what these are. So I'm going to read them one more time. Harbor attack thoughts, yield to judgment, or make plans against uncertainties to come. So tonight is attack thoughts, right?
Yeah. So it's very important it's really great when he highlights something and he just shows you exactly, because this is the lesson about sickness, right? And the whole session, the whole lesson is about showing you why you get sick and the remedy, right? So we're not just reading this and going, I'm just going to ignore that. We're reading it to say, if I want the peace of God, if the peace of God is right in my mind right now, I want to be aware of the blocks that are blocking the peace of God so they can be let go to have the peace of God. The peace of God is not this mystical thing. This is a practical course, and everybody has started through the last week and probably been doing it for many years, but this is kind of like what he's saying is now to be more mindful of this and to focus on these things, but also he will guide you individually how to do this. So we're just here to present it, to give you this discipline and commitment to this particular thing. And it might help you in many other ways as well. So attack thoughts, harboring attack thoughts. So remember, attack thoughts come into our mind, but we have to harbor them. A harbor is like, when boats are in a harbor, they gather, put a wall around them and harbor it against anything. So we're harboring attack thoughts. Yielding to judgment, we're going to have judgment thoughts. Yielding to it is joining it and going, yeah, that's right, this person did this, I don't like them for that, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And more judgment thoughts come in and we yield to it. And rather than noticing the judgment thought and letting it go and replacing it with the truth and making plans against uncertainties to come. So we will look at that in depth in one of these workshops. So, getting back to lesson 26 for today. So this is about harboring attack thoughts. So your focus for this week will be you will be noticing the attack thoughts and not harboring them. So Jesus knows we're going to have attack thoughts, but our job is not to harbor them, not to round them up and say, yes, yeah, I was attacked, yeah, they attacked me, yeah, and sit in it and feel really terrible for it. Our job is to become more aware of when they're in our mind and apply forgiveness, which is shifting into, like Shannon said, we've got the ego and the Holy Spirit or Christ's mind. God's voice is the Holy Spirit. So we're shifting from there. We're noticing the ego, through the decision maker, and making the decision to put the truth instead of the false. Okay, so let's get going with this one. So my attack thoughts are attacking my invulnerability. So my invulnerability is the peace of God, the love of God. And when I harbor attack thoughts, I block it out. I'm blocking it. I'm literally saying, I want to join these attack thoughts. I want to act. I want to be in the ego mind. I'm choosing the ego mind. And I don't realize that I'm blocking my invulnerability, the peace of God, the perfect spirit, the beautiful, gorgeous contentment of being in God's mind. So it is surely obvious that if you can be attacked, you are not invulnerable. You see attack as a real threat. That is because you believe that you can really attack. And what would have effects through you must have effects on you. It is this law that will ultimately save you because you are misusing it now. You must therefore learn how it can be used for your own best interests rather than against them. Shannon?
Thanks, Kate. Because your attack thoughts will be projected, you will fear attack. And that's a really important thing to remember, is that it's just inducing this fear, right? So there isn't anything that attack really does, like, because it's all in the mind. And so really it's just increasing that fear. It's increasing the fear of the ego. It's not really doing anything else. And what is fear? Fear doesn't do anything either. So it's really great to allow him to shine that into your mind and show you that fear is not anything. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't stop the thing that you're afraid of from happening. It does nothing. There's nothing that it does. So here we are with, because your attack thoughts will be projected, you will fear attack. So now the fear of attack is there. And if you fear attack, you must believe that you are not invulnerable. Attack thoughts, therefore, make you vulnerable in your own mind, which is where the attack thoughts are. Attack thoughts and invulnerability cannot be accepted together. They contradict each other. Kate?
The idea for today introduces the thought that you always attack yourself first. If attack thoughts must entail the belief that you are vulnerable, their effect is to weaken you in your own eyes. Thus, they have attacked your perception of yourself. And because you believe in them, you can no longer believe in your true self. A false image of yourself has come to take the place of what you are. Shannon?
Practice with today's idea will help you to understand that vulnerability or invulnerability is the result of your own thoughts. Nothing except your thoughts can attack you. Nothing except your thoughts can make you think you are vulnerable. And nothing except your thoughts can prove to you this is not so.
Sorry, Shannon, I hope I didn't cut you off then, but that is the key to the truth. Nothing except your thoughts can attack you. Nothing except your thoughts can make you think you are vulnerable. And nothing except your thoughts can prove to you this is not so. So we once again remember that we have to work with our thoughts. This is where we work with. Now, thoughts make beliefs and they make concepts of ourselves. So he's always working with our thoughts, and he says that these thoughts, these ego thoughts, are not our thoughts. They're not our true thoughts. They, as you work with giving all your thoughts to him to change, you'll start to get a recognition that you as the observer or the witnesser of the thoughts, you start to get more and more awareness in your mind. It's like there's more awareness of, watching a thought and just noticing it pass by and just saying that's not my real thought. And then other times you'll get caught in it and you'll need to do what I call long forgiveness, which is getting caught in it, going along, going down the rabbit hole with that thought, and then remembering at some stage, oh, I'm not feeling at peace. I must have got caught up in a story, and then noticing the story. So as soon as you're noticing the story, you're in the witnesser, the observer, the decision-making part of your mind that can choose. You can't choose another way. You can't ask the Holy Spirit. You can't repeat the lesson of the day unless you have that awareness. I'm caught in the ego. Oh, I'm in an ego story. Oh, I don't feel good. I must be caught in this story of attack. So we'll go through this exercise here, but one of the things that to really simplify it is that the ego is our thoughts, right? The ego is a thought system. And as you go further and further into this work, you'll start to, I got the seeing of the whole ego thought system. Like it was like looking at the ego thought system. I could see it all. I could see how it works, why it works, what its purpose was. But also in that looking, I was shown that it has no power at all. And the power comes from us being mindless, from believing the thoughts that say, I am a body, right? And all those thoughts about being a body. And that's basically, if we are fearful, we're believing an attack thought it's a part of the ego thought system, but it's always about us being a body. It has to be, because spirit is invulnerable. So if we're relating to ourselves as spirit, as that Christ self, we just wouldn't be interested in any attack thoughts. So I wanted you to have an awareness about that particular idea as you go into the week. All right. So now we're going to do a particular exercise on this. So it says 6 practice periods are required, but we're just going to do it now. So I'm just going to start with paragraph 6 here. So the practice period should begin with repeating the idea for today. So if everyone could just close their eyes and just say, my attack thoughts are attacking my invulnerability. So my invulnerability is spirit. Attack thoughts in my mind block my invulnerability. Rather than saying they attack it, it's nice to say they block it, right? So if I want to feel this invulnerability, this beautiful, gorgeous, lovely experience of my true self, any attack thoughts that I harbour, they block it. They block it. So that's the cost of harbouring these attack thoughts. The cost to me is the peace of God. So what that gives me the motivation to be more vigilant throughout the week, to catching them and noticing them and letting them go. So I want you to review the unresolved questions whose outcomes are causing you concern. The concern may take the form of depression, worry, anger, and a sense of imposition, fear, foreboding, or preoccupation. Any problem as yet unsettled that tends to reoccur in your thoughts during the day is a suitable subject. You will not be able to use very many for any one practice period because a longer time than usual should be spent with each one. Today's I should be applied as follows. Now, I want you to write down, naming the situation I am concerned about, and I want you to write what's coming into your mind at the moment that you're concerned about. And then I want you, he's asking us to go over every possible outcome that has occurred to you in that connection and which has caused you concern, referring to each one quite specifically, saying, I am afraid such and such will happen. So if you've written the thing you're concerned about and you've written the things you're afraid will happen about that situation, I'll just give you a few more minutes to write anything else that you're concerned about, and then the things you're worried will happen. So when you finish writing, if you just like to look at the screen, so I know who's still writing and who's finished. Okay. So I'm just going to look at the second page on my computer to make sure everyone's finished. All right, everyone's looking pretty good. Okay, so Shannon, I think, has just stepped away for a minute, so I'll continue on. If you are doing the exercises properly, you should have some 5 or 6 distressing possibilities available for each situation you use, and quite possibly more. So this is when we write, I'm afraid such and such will happen. He's saying that there's probably 5 or 6 things that we're worried about that will happen. It's much more helpful to cover a few situations thoroughly. That's what we're doing here, just a few, 2 or 3 situations thoroughly, than to touch on a larger number, because we really want to drill down into these beliefs. Because the ego is just in our mind, just blah, 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 blah. And we want to slow down. This is why he's asking you to do this. He wants you to see how the ego works. As the list of anticipated outcomes for each situation continues, you will probably find some of them, especially those that occur to you towards the end, less acceptable to you. Try, however, to treat them all alike to whatever extent you can, because they're all thoughts. They're all ego thoughts. After you have named each outcome of which you are afraid, tell yourself, that thought is an attack upon myself. So I want you to go back now, and all the things that you have written, I am afraid such and such will happen, I want you to read it, and then I want you to repeat to yourself, that thought is an attack upon myself. Now I want you to write down in your journal or on the paper exactly why that is an attack upon yourself. Let the truth expose to you, and you write it for yourself why it is an attack upon you, your true self. Okay, Maurice just says he doesn't quite understand. So, what I'm asking is, why is that thought about I am afraid such and such will happen? Why is it an attack upon your true self? The answer is in the heading of the lesson. So some further insights into the answer is that when I say I am afraid that, I will lose all my money, that is that thought and that belief that I will lose all my money holds the belief that I am a body. And rather than saying it's an attack upon myself, you could say it's blocking. It blocks me from the peace of God, because that thought is referring to me as a body. So it's an attack. It's attacking my invulnerability. It's blocking my invulnerability as God created me. So anytime I'm afraid that something might happen, I want you to notice throughout the week that all these thoughts, I am afraid such and such will happen. I want you to start focusing in how these thoughts always go out to their ego thoughts, and by you identifying and buying in and not catching those thoughts, you go into worry. He says depression, worry, anger, and a sense of imposition, fear, foreboding, or preoccupation. So notice, I want you to, when you get this lesson out during the week and read it over a few times, I want you to notice that when you are in going down the track of I am afraid such and such will happen, that causes you to go into those kind of experiences. And the answer is to trust. And I think the next lesson is something about above all else I want to see, and there is nothing to fear. So there's a couple of lessons there further on that are the answer to that. I am spirit. There is nothing to fear. But allow him to show you the answer. So what we're trying to get here today is to join the dots that these particular attack thoughts block our experience of our true self when we buy into them, when we go into them, when we believe they're true, and they attack our invulnerability in God. So they lock off the experience of peace and happiness. So now we've written them out, we have got them on a piece of paper, and we're very aware Jesus wants us to write them down. He's put them in this particular lesson for a reason. This is not just something to write out and then skip over. He's giving us a very clear guidelines on how the correlation between believing those thoughts and depression, worry, anger, a sense of imposition, fear, foreboding, or preoccupation. So that's why that thought is an attack upon myself, because myself, my true self, needs nothing. It is free, it is spirit, it is as God created me, and we need to get into alignment with that true self and release all these things that we're afraid to happen. We release them all to him. So I'll take you just through a little forgiveness process now. Joan, I'll get to you in a minute. Or is it about the exercise we're doing now? A question? Okay. If you'd like to unmute it.
Okay. As you were speaking, I was listening to a terrible storm outside, a lot of heavy rain, a hurricane. There's a hurricane happening with a lot of flooding out there. And I'm saying to myself, well, gee, I wouldn't want to go out in this hurricane. I would be afraid to go into this flooding. So I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's like, do I work with that also? Do I also work with the fear of going out in a terrible storm?
Yes, for sure. That's exactly what he wants you to do. So I am concerned about the storm. I am afraid, whatever.
Okay.
And notice that they are attack thoughts. They're attacking your invulnerability.
All right.
So yeah, of course. Because there's no hierarchy of illusion, right?
Yes.
So they're all, he wants us to notice everything that's coming up for us. All
All
right.
right.
So now I'll just do, if I don't know whether you've written about it, Joan, but if you want to just hold those thoughts in your mind, and let's do a little quick forgiveness process, and then we'll do a meditation that Shannon's been given, which will help. All right, will be the answer. So always the answer is the truth. Okay. So I'll just get you to take all those thoughts, everything you're concerned about and everything you're afraid of, right? Just take it all and give it all to Jesus or the Holy Spirit. Just feel yourself gathering them up, putting them in like a cloth and just holding it from the top, or a bag of some sort. All those beliefs and thoughts in the bag and just holding it, and then just giving it all to him. He says in the Course to give all our concerns to him, to search our mind, which we've done today, and give him everything. Just release it. Feel yourself releasing it all, letting it all go. And then just say to yourself, I don't want those thoughts back. I don't want them back because they're causing me to feel anxious or worried. So I want to release them. And I want the truth. I want to see this storm differently, or I want to see the situation that I've now written about. I want to see it differently. Above all else, Holy Spirit, show me the truth. And feel your real prayer in asking for him to show you the truth. And if you're not getting anything, I'll just speak out what he's bringing into me so that you can ride on my words. So I am this beautiful, holy self. I am not a little body in a little world where everything crumbles and dies and suffers. That is a complete fabrication. It is a dream world. It has nothing to do with my true self. And in this dream, bodies die, but I am not the body, and I am something that doesn't die and isn't in a world and isn't in a dream. I am spirit, completely invulnerable. And write on these words to feel, to have the experience of something that is free of body identification. Something that feels spacious and free as spirit, as the love of God, as infinite, as eternal, where there's no time or space. Just let him bring anything into your mind to help you right now as an answer. Because we're going for an experience of the truth, not a theology. Let's resign as our own teacher. Let's just not know anything. Let's forget about knowing and just say, I'm here. I want to know my true self. And so, Shannon, I might get you to lead that. If you can just everyone stay with your eyes closed, and Shannon will take us into a meditation to segue. Yes.
So this is a prayer from lesson 136. And we can join in this prayer and strengthen these ideas in the one mind. Before we do that, I'm just going to read the last paragraph of this lesson. Give instant remedy by not allowing your defensiveness to hurt you longer. Do not be confused about what must be healed. In this instant remedy, he's saying, this prayer is the instant remedy for those three topics. So when you notice attack thoughts in the mind, this prayer is the instant remedy. You just feel yourself letting go. Just deepen that surrender. Take a deep breath. Feel your shoulders relax as you exhale. And just feel everything leaving. Now repeat these words in your mind, this prayer. I have forgotten what I really am. For I mistook my body for myself. sickness is a defense against the truth. But I am not a body. And my mind cannot attack. So I cannot be sick. Now just say, I lay down my arms in your mind, but as you're doing that, feel yourself laying your arms down and completely surrendering. And feel that deep surrender that these words point to. And we're just going to join in this prayer for about 5 minutes. And if you find your mind wandering, just repeat, I lay down my arms, and sink back in to this surrender. Now repeat these words in your mind. I accept the truth of what I am. And let my mind be wholly healed now. And just let yourself feel gratitude in your heart for the healing that is always there. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and extend that gratitude to each other. Mhm.
Thank you, Shannon. And so, as we go forward into this week, I'd like you to continue to do a morning and night checking in around these attack thoughts and writing your dedication to yourself in catching them. And the recording can go up, and if you like, you can flick to the end and do the meditation that Shannon's just done. So try to read lesson set 26 a few times to really understand how that when we harbour these thoughts, we block our experience of our true self. So the answer is to let them go. Whatever comes into your mind, and how we want to let them go is we want to experience the peace and love of God. So it gives us the motivation to become more aware of them. And also deepen your trust with listening to the Holy Spirit or Jesus, whoever you relate to, whatever your guide is, to spend more time connecting that inner guide and allowing him to show you all the areas where you might be harboring attack thoughts and not aware of them. And the answer is always something to do with, I am not a body. I am something that is beyond this body. And that lifts you up to the experience, this beautiful love. And that is our true self. And that can't be given with words, but it can be experienced. So that's the task for this week. I will write up an overview of what we've done today into the Zoom to Miracles group. And the audio will go up onto YouTube within a few days. So thank you, everyone. That's the end of the workshop. Hope you got some deeper understanding, some deeper connections. This is for you. This is for you. Thank you, Shannon. Beautiful co-host. Thank you to everyone. Gratitude, gratefulness, thankfulness to you. I love you. I bless you. And I honor you. And I see only your holiness. Thank you, everyone. Love you. Bye.